EA Sports FIFA 20 sponsors Saturday Social.
This is Making It Pro with Dominic Calvert Lewin in partnership with EA Sports FIFA 20. Dominic, firstly, strange times we're living at the minute. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just plugging away. I think it's been a while now, so I'm well into a routine of doing what I'm doing, but missing the game as always.
Yeah, I think we're all missing football. Let's talk about you and your journey. You're obviously playing in the Premier League at the minute, but let's take it back to when you were a little kid. Was it always football that you wanted to do? At what age did you start picking up a football and playing?
I think I first joined the team when I was 6 or 7, and then from then didn't really look back, but always had a ball at my feet and always just, whenever I could, try to play football, whether that was on my back garden in the house, smashing things in the house all the time, my mum going mad at me for breaking stuff. And finding any ways to just, whether it was a tennis ball, I used to play with a tennis ball all the time, and just always love football.
When you were playing football with your mates, who was your role model? Who on the TV did you look up to and want to emulate?
I would always say, if I think back, I can just remember watching Spanish football at my dad's house and just watching Ronaldinho and just thinking, like that's who I want to be. For me, he's the best player of all time. He's still my favourite ever player, and watching him as a young kid, it was just like, he always had a smile on his face. He always enjoyed the game, and that's kind of my first memory. It was like, it's fun. Football is fun. So watching him, and then Thierry Henry was my other one. He was my other idol. I think whenever I used to try and get football shirts, it was Thierry Henry's football shirt, because he was my favourite player, and I don't think you can really argue with that one.
And I'm right in thinking you're a Sheffield lad and you're a Sheffield United fan as a kid. So the fact that you went to Sheffield United, played YTS, what was that like? Because that must be a dream for you, to actually play and represent the club that you grew up supporting.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I made my debut against Leyton Orient away, and I'd not been a centre forward that long, to be honest. And Nigel Clough threw me on, and I didn't quite grasp at first the knack of being patient as a centre forward. And I used to think, because I was so used to being a central midfielder and chasing people down and always having to get tight to your man, he threw me on up front, and he ended up having a go at me for running around too much, and chasing back when really I should have been up the top of the pitch, waiting for the ball. So they're just like little things like that which I remember, and you just learn from. And playing for Sheffield United, a massive achievement for me.
And of course, Everton come in for you. Now, I read an interesting article with you just saying it was quite simply too good of a move to turn down, because it must have been quite hard leaving the club that you supported as a kid. But was it just, as you said in your own words, once Everton came in, there was only one thought in your mind? You
could argue that I was in Sheffield United's first team, and then I joined Everton to go and effectively be an under-23. So the toss-up for me at that time was it a backward step, or was it a sideways step or a forward step? I think I was training with the first team probably 3 months after joining. I made my England debut the same week of joining, and things just kind of started to click then. Not many people know this, but I did put a lot of pressure on myself at Sheffield United, because it was my hometown, and I wanted to do so well, and I knew that my friends were Sheffield United fans and their parents were Sheffield United fans, and I think as a young lad wanting to do so well, it was hard to block all that out. So I think I never really did myself too much justice at Sheffield United. I still feel like I could have done more, and there was a lot more to come, and obviously there has been more to come. But they'd say that they'd want me there. When the Everton transfer came along, and
really,
as a young boy seeing that, it's like, fair enough. Okay, I'm going to go to Everton. I'm going to prove you all wrong. So I'd like to think I've done so.
That must be quite an interesting mindset to have, because you love the club, you're a fan of the club, and you're saying there's fans saying, we'll walk you there because it didn't quite work out the way you'd hoped at Sheffield United. You said you want to prove them wrong. Do you feel like you had unfinished business at the club then, in a way?
That was the toughest time of my life, was adjusting to the mental battle of playing first team football, I think. And that's something that you come to grips with experience, and I'm grateful that I've got a family around me that have helped me along the way. There's nothing that can prepare you. You tactically, technically, you train as a young kid growing, but absolutely nothing can prepare you for the mental battle. So I feel like, I've got a lot of respect for the top players that deal with it on an even bigger scale. I get it to a certain level now, as your profile grows, but I've also realised it don't matter how well you play, how high you get, you'll always get that kind of that criticism, because you you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please them all the time. And I think it's about just believing in the process and believing in yourself. I think the hardest thing was, my mum and things like that, adjusting to not going on Twitter. I became a lot better at before they did. It's because I'm still a little boy in her eyes, so I think it was tough for them to adjust. But thankfully, I'm hitting the back of the net now, and all of it was worth it.
So for other players that do go through this and do receive unfair criticism, abuse on social media, how did you deal with that specifically then? And what advice would you have for other players to try and block that out?
I think for me, I actually stopped going on Twitter because I think when I started playing, I'd still use Twitter. I don't really use the Twitter app too much now. I'm an Instagram person, but I think with social media nowadays, it's straight away. You could finish a game, go on Twitter, and you can see, you can judge yourself if you want to on people's opinions on how you've played. But I always think as a player, you always know how well you've played. Even if the way people see it don't agree with you, you know what you've done right and what you've done wrong. So I think if you always go off that and you trust in what you know and trust your small circle around you, to take advice from them and the people that matter, I think you can't go too far wrong. But it's about not getting too caught up in what goes on. It's like I always say, you got to be a little bit bulletproof because you got to just block everything else out and focus on what's important and not get too involved in any of that. And the rest kind of takes care of itself.
You have won the World Cup for England and you've scored the winning goal in a World Cup final for England. I've spoken to you about this before and your face was beaming. I'm speaking to you about it now, your face is beaming again. Talk us through just what it's like to be able to say I've scored the winning goal in a World Cup final for England, because not many people can say that, mate.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It's still a little bit surreal, when you say it. I think at the time it was just an unbelievable feeling. And, like you say, we've spoke about this before, but it kind of never gets old, really. I can take myself back into not kind of believing that I'd scored. I hit the back of the net and I was checking for the linesman to see if I was offside. I was looking around, I was thinking, because there weren't that many England fans in the stadium, so it was like, I'm sure there was over the other side, so you couldn't really hear the roar. So it's just, it was a surreal time. And then one of the proudest moments in football for me was, the first person I saw was my granddad, and so I hugged him. Never heard him cry before, but I think he's pretty close. So yeah, that was a special moment.
How did you celebrate then? You said there was a few celebrations. Go on, talk us through how you celebrated
it. So I had a few of my family members there. My mum, my dad, my stepdad was there, my granddad. We went into we had the dining room. So we've gone.
Why are you laughing so much? What? Go on.
I'll let you into a little secret here. Go on. So we was in the dining room. I think a few of the lads had been allowed, to go and have a bit of social time to go and wander off if they wanted to. But my family, John Joe, Kev Dowell, and I think there was Harry Chapman's mum and dad, and all the staff from the England team. So there was Simo, Danksy, Rich Hartis. We all stayed. So there was a few bottles of red wine. I think I was drinking red wine and lemonade. I don't know where that came from.
Red wine and lemonade? Wow.
20-year-old boy, weren't I? 20-year-old boy. Didn't know any better. So I'm drinking red wine and lemonade, and everyone's enjoying themselves. And I've seen a little. The night's been going. I've seen a little commotion, and I've just heard, oh, and all the staff are like gathering round in a circle. So I've looked, and oh, hey! And my mum popped out in the middle with a trophy.
No way, love that. So your mum's taking centre stage with the World Cup trophy. Brilliant.
Yeah, so I just picked mum out of nowhere, just out in the middle of everybody, just come out with a trophy.
Of all the players you've played with, so many talented players at Everton now, and obviously over the years that you've been there, who's had the biggest influence on you? Does Wayne Rooney stand out as a player that you've particularly enjoyed playing with and has been very influential on your career? Yeah,
I think when Wazza came, I could see straight away, technically he was one of the best, if not the best players I played with. He just, once he had the ball at his feet, he could kind of put the ball wherever he wanted. And when he came, I realised how big he was, and the amount of attention he used to get. And I thought, that's Wayne Rooney when he first came, and I was a little bit starstruck because I've grown up watching him.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. I think we all were. I remember just speaking to John Joe Kenny, and it was like, that's Wazza. He's part of our team now. But then straight away, it was like he was just one of the lads. He used to just tell his stories and things, and he'd sit with us. They would on our table. We'd get the train down to London away games, and it had been me, Kieran Dowell, John Joe, and Wazza as a four, and he'd just sit and chat to us, and just listening to him and some of the experiences he's had were just fascinating and just unbelievable to hear.
And be honest, when you're on that train and you've got the table with four and you three are sat there, you go, Wayne, there's a seat here, sit here, mate. you want him to sit next to you, like at school, the cool kids.
You know what? I think he wanted to sit with us as much as we wanted him to sit there. I think he just enjoyed being with the young lads, and we had a decent crack on the train. So I think he's seen that and wanted to get involved. But then it just became that was our set seat then, and it stayed.
Got to ask you about Carlo Ancelotti. You've played with some great managers, and I don't want to disrespect any other managers you've worked under, but would you say Carlo Ancelotti has been one of the most influential managers you've worked under?
I would say so, yeah. I think, I've played under a fair few managers now, in my short career so far, and every manager's come with a different approach, and you can learn something different from each manager. But I think the thing about Carlo at the minute is that you come in, and I was on a good run of form, off the back of Duncan Ferguson coming in, and I'd kind of kick-started my season there. And I think the best thing he could have done was come in and not really say too much. I think, when a player's playing well, it's important not to overcomplicate it and start trying to change too much. And I feel like, looking back on it now, he recognised that, and he just kind of just said, go on, enjoy yourself, go and keep playing, keep scoring. Having a manager of his stature and his pedigree come in and put the belief in you straight away to continue being his number 9. I think that gave me all the confidence I needed to just keep going. And obviously having Dunk still there, it gave me a great foundation to just keep kicking on and just keep going and stay focused.
And you are having a great season. A lot of pundits, a lot of experts, a lot of players saying your form is deserving of an England call. Of course, we're fully aware there's no football now, but do you feel like your form is deserving of an England call with the way that you've been playing this season?
I don't know if it's deserving of an England call up. It's that's not my decision to make. But I think it's important for me not to get too carried away. I think the best players can do this season on season on season on season. So my focus is just completely on continuing to do what I'm doing and doing it all over again to then start stacking my case. To hopefully one day play for my country, because that's something that that would be the proudest day of my life.
And Don, while I've got you, before you go, I do want to just ask you, it's not particularly about your career, but there's a photo of you and Tom Davies at New York Fashion Week, and I can't do this interview without asking you about the clobber that you're wearing. What's going on there?
Man. It's just, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. It's just what we did. I think we saw a window of opportunity to go to New York Fashion Week in the winter break, because it's the first ever winter break. So I think we've never had the opportunity before, and it's something we both enjoy. The fashion side of things, and it wasn't like forced or anything like that. It was just we just went there, enjoyed ourselves, took a few pictures, and it kind of just ran away with itself on it. But I think with the clobber, I thought I looked good, to be fair, so I'll take it.
Future ambitions, Dominic Calvert Lewin. You've got a long career ahead of you. But when you look back on your career, what do you want to achieve? What are your future ambitions from here on in?
I want to, score many goals in the Premier League and hopefully play for my country. That is definitely something that I want to achieve. But I think looking back on my career, I want to be recognised as a top centre forward, that's played the game, and have people respect what I've achieved. And I want to win things with my club, Everton, and I want to win things with England. So that's my goal in my heart of heart, and I believe it's achievable within the span of my career. So, but also I have to recognise the job at hand and focus on the short term and keep taking it week by week, day by day, and game by game. And I always think that if you don't look too far ahead and you continue to do well consistently, the rest kind of takes care of itself. So for me, it's about just replicating what I've achieved so far this season.
Dom, thank you very much for your time, mate. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Stay safe and we'll catch up soon.
No problem, Smithy. Thank you.
That was, of course, Making It Pro with Dominic Calvert Lewin in partnership with EA Sports FIFA 20.